let's jump right in. Our first topic today is funding. I mean, it's here, it's there, it's everywhere. It almost seems like money is literally falling from the sky these days. Um, and so aside from the recovery funding, which is going to state local governments that can be used for broadband, there's NTIA grant programs that are going to be launching this summer and potentially more funding coming in the infrastructure bill. And that's really just all of the public money. And there's also, additional funding for RDOF and other programs. So this is a two-part question directed to Bill Maguire first. What should municipalities be doing to access this money? And how can munis partner better to put themselves in the best position to win grant funds?
Yeah, thank you, Lori. So when I think back on my time reviewing competitive grant applications, I think that there are really two core elements that make up a competitive grant application. That is a plan and a team. For a plan, it should align with the grant's priorities and sort of programmatic objectives. And the team needs to support the viability of the plan. So what can cities be doing? They can be developing the case for how their city has been working, how their local community has been working to advance the programmatic goals. And then it can take, sort of an unflinching view on what are those pieces that maybe are missing in its experience and its expertise within its own internal organization. Where does it going to need to find partners? So if stakeholder engagement is something that you've not yet done, that's something that you can be working on now, identifying the right partner to help you in that area. On the infrastructure deployment side, there are obviously a number of different tools and organizations that can be brought to bear to make that effective if you've not had experience pursuing that road. So, a viability of a plan comes from the strength of the team. So we can be putting those pieces in place. If I could offer just sort of one thought from sort of inside the beast, if you will, when the federal government decides to kind of engage via a grant as opposed to a contract, it's looking to buy a partnership rather than a specific deliverable. A contract as a specific deliverable. A grant is a partner that the federal government will work with. So I think if local governments and their partners have that in mind, maybe they can they'll be in a position to put forth effective and compelling proposals.
And I think that's a good segue. And Jeff Christensen, this next question is coming to you, but there's a little bit of an introduction here. Municipal broadband obviously is a hot topic. I mean, we've been talking about it. It has been for years, and there's still over 20 states that still have restrictions in place for municipal networks. There have been a number of different models that are in place for the development of public-private partnerships. The good news is that more than ever, we're seeing the public and the private sector working together on implementing these solutions and going after the funding that we just talked about. And I know Entry Point and you particularly is working closely with a number of municipalities in developing P3s. Can you discuss how P3s have evolved over the years, including touching on your success in Ammon, Idaho?
Sure. So, I think P3 used to mean something narrow, something specific. And I think now it just means there's a public organization doing something with a partnership, and it can take a lot of forms, and that's going to get a lot more complicated. And all the work Bill's doing, I think we're about to see massive change. And so I'm going to say a 10-year window. There's going to be, the network's going to become fundamentally important for a lot of stuff. Right now, it's fundamentally important for the internet. The grid, I think, is probably going to undergo significant change in the next 10 years, just with battery technology and solar coming down and public investment. So I think, what cities and counties, what all of us are used to thinking is the status quo today is going to come under massive pressure, partly because of all this money that's coming out, partly because private infrastructure funds are now getting really serious about investing in this infrastructure. And because smart cities been talked about for 20 years, and now we're starting to see things that actually matter in people's lives get connected. And so I think there's a number of confluences happening here that will change the landscape. And the way the world works today is not the way the world's going to work 10 years from now.
And can you just for a moment just briefly describe the model in Ammon and how successful that is, and why that's a great solution for some municipalities?
Sure. So Ammon, we refer to it as automated open access, and at a more technological layer, it's a combination of software-defined networking and the open access concept. Open access means that more than one service provider is operating on the network. So the way the world works today, where we just worry about the internet, you can have multiple ISPs operating simultaneously across the Ammon network to a premise. So you could have one for work, one for family. But the real interesting part of what we're doing in Ammon has to do with virtualizing the network and so we do think the grid is going to get connected to fiber networks, and the grid is going to get pushed to go beyond the meter. So right now we're just pulling data off the meter. We think that in order to do transactive energy, you're going to have to get to the panel, and you're going to have AI in the mix, and you're going to have real-time communications happening to balance loads and do other things with the grid. So that's one example. Another is with healthcare, people are thinking, well, I can do Zoom office visits with my doctor. But the really interesting part of what's going on in healthcare is, what I think John Hopkins coined hospital at home, where we're getting devices in the home that are being monitored and managed from the hospital. And that requires a reliable network and a HIPAA compliant connection, and Zoom's not quite going to get there. So Ammon enables all of that because we can virtualize the network, and over one fiber connection, we can do multiple things simultaneously.